Oh,
hey, pals. Welcome back to another monk introduced episode of the Pool Box Pals. I bet you're getting tired of hearing me. Our pal, Mad, will be back next week. But in the meantime, who I like to call our official third pal is Andy Header. Round of applause for Andy Header, everybody.
yeah. As we
Whee!
I'm happy to be back on Pullbox Pals for a fourth or fifth or sixth time. I don't know, but it's always fun to talk comics and
Isn't it?
do it up.
It's do you have, I mean, I'm sure you do. I don't know what it is, but what's your like intro music for wrestling?
So a couple times I changed it over the years, but I always try to use something like dorky, but like a heavy metal version. So
Yeah.
I was using a metal version of the classic '90s X-Men theme for a long time, and then
Okay.
I to a metal version of the Street Fighter. I believe it's Ken's theme. So that's right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. The band Power Glove. They do a lot of
Okay.
game heavy metal covers, so I usually use something from them, and then I use it for a while. Then I get tired, I switch. But I don't have like an
Yeah.
actual theme. I would
Okay.
get a guy to do a theme, and then I was about to message him because I think it was like $50 at the time. I was like, it's a lot for a song, but then he signed with AEW, so I was like, oh, I guess I ain't gonna get it.
Oh yeah, you should have jumped on that, or at least jump on it now if you still can.
Yeah, I don't know. Now he's awful busy because he's making all kinds of music for him, but I
Right.
did it when I had the chance.
Oh man. Well, hey, hindsight's 2020, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So, but we actually got to see each other today. This isn't our first time interacting today.
Yeah, we've seen each other at our local comic book store, Alchemist Cove. Sometimes we do. Sometimes I was off today, but normally when I have work, sometimes you're in before I get there. All the time. But it's always nice to see someone that you know in the shop other than the owner, you know. And say,
Right.
hey,
Yeah.
getting and just, it's always fun.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, we definitely have really good shop guys. I've heard like horror stories about different shops that the owners or the people working there are very like despondent and not really talkative. But ours are always super friendly, and like they are invested in what you're reading and like they're curious about it and all that stuff.
And he gives suggestions of like, oh, I seen you like this. I just pulled this for you, but you don't have to take it. Some shops I pulled that for you and you're gonna buy it. But yeah,
ours one time, it wasn't any of the owners, but I was at the shop one time and somebody tried to convince me. I think I did end up buying it. It was Naked Bear Fighter or Shirtless Bear Fighter 2 volume. Yeah, it was volume 2, issue number 1. And he told me that if I didn't like it, that he would like personally refund me, and I never read it. So I don't know if that guy might owe me some money, but
$3.99 plus tax.
Right? Yeah. Have you ever read that series?
So I read the first series. I got that in my comic book store. It's just wacky fun about a guy who was raised by bears in the woods.
Yeah. Okay.
His name is Shirtless because he doesn't want to show you, just wears pants.
That's funny. Okay, so that changes it up because I thought it was like he was a shirtless bear wrestler. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Yeah.
So he's raised by bears, and then the evil corporation that makes toilet paper wants to cut the trees down to make toilet. So he has to fight them off, and they use bears that they mind warp to help them cut down the forest.
Oh man. Yeah, that does sound like a pretty good story.
Yeah, secret society and stuff, and like a government agency that employs bears. It's over the top wacky fun. So
yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, I mean that's what they did suggest it for me at the shop because I think they thought it would be something that would be like up my alley. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like it wacky. Like, yeah, that does seem like something I would enjoy. But I have volume number 1 of issue 2, or of arc number 2.
There you
So,
go. And that's one I think you can pick up on trade for maybe $12.99. It's like 5 or 6 issues, and they're
yeah,
obviously light reads. They're not very heavy and wordly.
nice. Yeah, I mean, you know me, I love a good like easy breezy read. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what's the like that wordiest comic that I've read and really enjoyed. It might be Behold Behemoth. Behold Behemoth is a little bit more wordy. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think it is. I'm trying to think. I know I really enjoyed Mindset, which was by the same guy who did Join the Future, whose name is escaping me at the moment, John something. But that series Mindset, it was about like an app that does like mind control.
Okay, yeah.
And it was really good. Like the story and the art was like top notch. Like I'll try to pull some up in a minute, but yeah, like it was just way too wordy for me. It was too much like dialogue and like them explaining like the science behind all of it, like and how it works and stuff, which was like interesting, but like not interesting enough for me to like feel like it was worth reading. You know.
Yeah, and sometimes it feels like
A lot of
almost like it's a chore. You just see all the words and you're like, oh, I'll never finish all these words. It just seems like it's such a high mountain to climb. So like,
I know when you're like scrolling through it, like like when you're just paging through it at like a comic book store, and you're just like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I could handle all this. But I will say, like, here, I'm gonna pull up my screen real quick. If you see this, like this art is absolutely fantastic.
oh, it is really nice.
I can't make that any bigger. Went to Amazon. Yeah, I mean, like, it's so well done that it's like I feel terrible that I didn't finish it, just because of like how good this is. But you know, I mean, again, like look at all these words at the top of this panel here. You know, just
Yeah,
it's a lot.
There are a lot of exposition. So
Yeah.
Scott Snyder's Batman run. Sometimes it would just be like all these like exposition bubbles and then word bubbles, and like and you're on a page for like 2 minutes. It's like, oh, I just want to.
Yeah, and it's hard because like I found this when there's a comic that's coming up that we'll be talking about that we both read, and when I was reading it, I just found myself like going so fast that I'm like, am I even looking at the art? Like it's like I'm just reading like the world's like shortest novel, like written on like the biggest pages, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just like turning through it so quick, not really like taking it in, which seems like a detriment. Like it seems like a
like you're missing a little bit.
yeah, right. Like it's like the whole point of comics is the visual element of it, you know?
See the story and then also read the story, get it all at once. But I know sometimes I'm like that. Like it's something that you're into the story so much that you're going through, you're just blasting through, and you're like, wait, I didn't look at that panel actually see what's happening. I just read.
And I know that sometimes that's a problem because sometimes in panels they hide like story clues. And then like you're just and this I can't tell you how many times I was reading a comic and I'm like, when did this happen? And then it'll be like something happened on a television that was like a whole, you know, frame, but I just didn't pay attention to it because it didn't have words on it or something like that, you know?
I like, oh wait, how did he throw him? And then like, oh, he punched him that panel. I didn't even look because I was too busy reading, you know?
Man, I think I'm learning about this. I'm learning this for like all pieces of art. Like I feel like I just need to engage with it twice before I can actually make like a definitive answer on it, you know?
Yeah, I hear it, especially with comics and a lot of times with movies too. Like if you watch time, you get that second view. I'm like, I didn't pick this up the first time, but now sometimes sometimes you're like, you notice the bad a little bit more too. But I mean, sometimes you gotta give stuff a second watch or look over.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of things, especially Marvel movies, that I've watched like second time and like enjoyed them more. I think my problems with like Marvel movies or like a lot of movies just in general is I just have expectations, you know, or like maybe just with the Marvel movies, I'm kind of like there's so much hype, which is like a form of expectation, but also just like I have this like worry, like I'm like anxious the whole time because I'm like I want this to be good. You know, like I don't want this to not be like a satisfactory story because as somebody who feels like they're like invested in the MCU, I feel like I have something at stake when these aren't good, you know?
Like you're losing.
Right, which is ridiculous because the reality is it's like it's just a form of media that could be either good or bad, and I don't have to attach my identity to it, you know?
Yeah, you don't win or lose anything. It's like, oh, I got since that movie was great, I got $100. It's like,
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Marvel
well, here's a question for you. What's been your favorite Marvel movie out of like this last phase?
the last phase, probably Doctor Strange. The second one, the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, Luigi's Mansion of Madness.
Luigi's Mansions of Madness is tabletop
Okay.
But yeah, that was probably my favorite just because I really like Scarlet Witch, and I'm not the biggest Doctor Strange fan, but just all the interactions and how they made like the Evil Dead horror elements because of a Sam Raimi director. That was good, and I probably Spider-Man, the third one, probably the second. I did not like the Wakanda Forever.
Okay, I thought it was nothing. Like it was like a nice like interlude between things. I love Namor, and I feel like they did a really good portrayal of him. I like that actor. I think he did a good job. But yeah, I feel like the whole thing was, and like understandably so, right? Like, what are you gonna do? Like,
without Black Panther, I mean, a Black Panther movie without T'Challa. I mean, yeah,
right.
It's not the same. It's like an Iron Man movie without Tony Stark. Like, cool, but we want Tony Stark.
Well, we'll see how that War Machine series, or I guess they're gonna try to make it like a TV special now.
That's what it was, back and forth from a movie to a Disney Plus show, Armor Wars. But then War Machine's not in it. So War Machine's not in it, and Tony Stark's not in it. Who the hell's in it?
Well, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be Rhodey. No spoilers for like Secret Invasion, but I would imagine that they're going to explore a little bit of that. But like also he has to deal with like all of Tony Stark's stuff. So it seems like it's a lot of stuff to cover and not just the hour long. Because think about Werewolf by Night, like how short that was, and like trying to do all that Rhodey stuff in there. Like they should just make it like a 4-episode series, like half an hour to 40 minutes each, which is that's essentially a movie. So maybe a little bit longer, Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I want from the MCU anymore besides just get good stories,
We've gotten so much that, it's like all your heroes, basically, unless you're a fan of somebody that's really low on the totem pole, like you've seen almost everything. So now it's like everything from here on out just bonus.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Come, which, is right around the corner.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, let's stop beating around that old MCU bush and let's get into what we got from the comic shop. Since you're the guest, would you like to go first?
Sure, I will go first, sir. I usually get a lot, but this week I had a little bit of a lighter week here.
Yeah, so you're on a Mad and Monk level here.
Yeah. So let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But I actually pulled. I would have
9. You told me 6 at the shop. You son of a gun.
Pulled 2 because of the Night Terror. So the event is going on, and he didn't pull 2 for me just because I didn't tell him. So I got the Night Terror main book, which is actually pretty. I did read this one beforehand. It is pretty good. I got that, the Zatanna side one, and the Green Lantern, and these are all 2 issues. And they're doing a cool thing, which when there's a big line or company-wide events, they always have the tie-in books. But what DC is doing is there's no regular books this month. Like, so there's no Superman, there's no Wonder Woman, there's the version, so that you don't have to buy an extra one. Like, I
think that's fantastic.
Yeah,
like my hat is off metaphorically to DC for that one, because I think one of the biggest things that turned me off from Marvel was the fact that they like do the opposite of that. They're like, we're gonna make you buy an extra trade paperback in the middle of this,
like, or like, and here's Civil War Wolverine, so you have to read that and the main book and the main Civil War book. I'm like, and then intimidating. Like, I ain't reading nothing now. So
I mean, that's the issue, because it's like, well, you want me to read so much, but we've had this conversation so many times on this podcast. But what else did you get, friend?
Finishing up the DC a Superman annual, which I always miss the annuals. I forget about them, but the Superman main book, really good, by Joshua Williamson.
I really love annuals. I wish I jumped on them more, because they're just essentially one shots, and why do it's perfect.
And then going on my one indie book. I got an Image book here, Gunslinger Spawn, which is
Nice.
very, very 90s, very actiony, and this one, Ghost Rider and Wolverine. This is a one shot, and I know it's going to go into the Ghost Rider book and the Wolverine book.
That's pretty sweet.
And then they're going to be in a part 4, which is like Ghost Rider Wolverine Omega or something.
Okay. See, that's how they get you. See, that's what we were just talking about there.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, I want to read this. Well, I got to buy one issue Ghost Rider, one issue Wolverine, and then they hope, oh, I really like that. I'm going to get Ghost Rider Wolverine from now on. So I see what. But if you just want the 4 issues, get the 4 issues.
We're watching you, Marvel.
Yeah, there we go. Speaking of Marvel, Captain Marvel Dark Tempest is a variant with the old Miss Marvel.
Nice.
Bridge between the Captain Marvel series that ended and the new one that is going to start in like a month here. So not bad so far. I only read the 1 issue. This is a variant cover. This is Avengers number 4, but it's Alex Ross art. So
I love that so much.
His
That's
art
fantastic.
Awesome. Let me just see where, so you can see like the Avengers there. But
that's amazing. Imagine being able to do something like that.
A painted style like that, where it's just like where they look like so realistic and like classic, like. And
I think it's the fact that it looks so classic, and like he's not like ashamed to be like, look how like cool these guys look, but they look so dorky, you know.
Oh, it's like 50s outfits that like anybody other artist would draw would be like, it looks kind of dorky, but his look awesome all the time.
Well, they always look. It looks like the Jetsons. Like they always look like like not so much like old timey, but more futuristic. But they are like vintagey.
If it makes sense, somebody in the 50s drawing something they think from the future. Like,
yep.
You know? And then finally, Wildcats by DC, which is an old Image book that they brought back. Jim Lee owned all the characters, so when he jumped over to DC, he took them all with him, and they have. Books every so often. They're not like a main DC stay, but this book is pretty good, written by Matt Rosenberg. So that's why I was getting that one, and that's why I got this week. So it's a small week for me. I did add 2 because sometimes I get like 10, or like the weeks I didn't want to, but I get 15. Like, ooh, this sucks.
So when you're reading, what is that like? How many do you, when you sit down and read, how many do you bust out in a go?
Usually like 2 or 3, sometimes 4.
Okay.
Probably sitting down there, I'll read like, let's say, like I have 2 hours myself, like 8 to 10. Even like when you read like 10 comics, then you start getting tired of just reading comics, so you gotta break up. But usually like 2 or 3. That's like a good number. You sit down and read 2 or 3. You know how some of you blow through real quick. So like, I'll read so fast. But like, unless you're like really engaged in the story, like we'll talk about when you sit down and just like, I just read 8 issues straight. You know?
Yeah. All right, so that's all you got then this week?
Yeah, that's my pools for this week. Let's see what you got over there.
Let's see what I got this week. I just want to say right from the get-go that I didn't get one that I was really looking forward to. The shop didn't pull it, and I was a fool and didn't tell them to pull it, so that's on me. But it is I always forget that Texas Blood spinoff. Oh Jesus, I forget, the Enfield Massacre, something like that. I mean, if you've heard, we talked about it on the last live episode, but yeah, it's Texas Blood spinoff. That's my favorite series, so I'm super excited for this. It's a prequel set in that same kind of world, I guess, but yeah, so stoked about this. So check it out. Oh, it looks like just like straight up like cowboys and Indian, just good old fashioned, all that fun stuff. Yeah, Wild West, just like gunslingers, like gunslinger. Maybe Spawn will make an appearance.
Yeah,
they're both from Image.
Yeah, they can. I believe they did do a Spawn, that Texas Blood.
They did. Yeah, but I would have to say it would be a slightly world breaking if I was like, if like Spawn just went through the background and be like, huh. I mean, not that weird stuff doesn't happen. You've read that comic before, right? Yeah.
But like, it's not a superhero-y.
No.
Or grounded in reality.
God, just sitting here thinking about it, I might reread the first arc. I have off Friday and Monday. I'm very tempted to dive in on that first arc again because it's so gosh darn good.
It is good. It's one of them too. Like I was just saying, where you can sit down and read all 5 issues or 6 issues, whatever it is, right in one shot, and be like.
That would be a perfect comic for it. I don't even know. I can't tell you the last time I reread it, but I would imagine that you just fly right through it. Mm-hmm. So But so this is besides that comic, which would have been probably I don't know. This probably would have been, on the same level of excitement for the for the pool. But I got The Nightmare Before Christmas, The Battle for Pumpkin King, number 5, which is the end of this run. Which like I'm bummed about, because this is honestly probably like one of my favorite comics of the year. Definitely top 5. Just because it's just a good comic. Like, it's just a good story. It's like it expands upon characters that I already know and love, so like I don't have to fall in love with new characters, like any of that stuff. It's been such a good time.
Now, does it take place after the movie, or
no? It takes place before, so it's how Jack becomes the Pumpkin King. So him and Oogie Boogie are competing for it. So they're like the two that the town have picked to compete for the Pumpkin King, because the current Pumpkin King is retiring, and he's kind of a sneaky bugger, and he's trying to help Oogie Boogie cheat to win. And they have to win 3 competitions. I forget what the first one was. It was like one of them's how you have to build a tower of bones as high as you could. That was the second one. I'm trying to remember what the first. Oh, you have to carry back as many pumpkins as you can from the pumpkin patch. So like, it's super kiddie. Like, it's just for kids. But like, I don't care. Like, I'm just sitting here like reading and just being like, this is cool. It's like 100.
You don't have to think much.
Right.
Easy. You can see the clear where it's going, but it's a fun read.
Right. And you could see it like happening in that world. It's like this would like happen here, But anyways, I'll chat about that more probably next week, because that's the end of that arc. And we've had this ongoing bit about how this comic's gonna break my heart, and I'm pretty sure it is. So tune in next week, and we'll follow up with Monk with a broken heart. But I feel like this is also gonna give me a broken heart, and it is Swan Songs number 2. Did you read number 1?
No, I didn't. So I don't even know what that one is about.
So it's like an anthology series where each issue it's the same writer. It's W. Maxwell Prince, who does Ice Cream Man, and also one of my favorites, King of Nowhere. Yeah, and so it's each story is about an ending, which is what Swan Song means.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, so that I would imagine that this is going to be sad, because I'm pretty sure it's about a divorce or something along that lines. So, I'm going to be batting 2 for 2 for breaking my heart. So,
comic reading day.
Yeah, but a comic that I don't think is going to break my heart necessarily, but I wouldn't be surprised if it surprised me, is Banshees number 3. So issue number 2 is probably one of my favorite like twists in a comics that I've read like this entire year. Really, like, it just like caught me so off guard, and I was just like, bah! Like, it just it don't be breaking my heart. That's how I'm mad. But yeah, I'm super excited to jump into that one as well. I got all good ones, like all comics that I was excited for, and this fun number, or this one shot from Scout Comics, Ranger Stranger.
Yeah, I looked at that and I was like, I don't know. I was thinking, if I didn't have less to pick up, if I didn't get the Night Terrors book, I was thinking about picking it up. I know it's a one shot.
Yeah.
Like kind of like a funny, wacky type adventure.
Yeah, it just, as I'm kind of just paging through it, just looks like a ranger going through and having a lot of like misadventures with animals. I saw he was covered in bee stings and like a badger and like all that stuff. So I would imagine that this comic is just gonna be a fun, just wacky adventure with a guy who it's I don't know. I don't want to like say anything because I just literally like paged through it for the first time. But I would imagine that it's probably gonna feel like one of those old timey cartoons where you just following a doofus through his job. And you're just like, how does this knucklehead keep down a day job?
He got a crazy situation. How's he gonna get out of this one?
Oh, and he did in 30 minutes or less. Yeah. Well, actually, probably like less than 15 minutes, because they used to do like 2 stories.
Yeah, remember that?
Wow.
It was like that regular show.
Oh.
Regular show.
Yeah.
like they work in a park and they real simple scenario. Hey, go collect the chairs, and they collect the chairs. They find a video game, they start playing it, and it unleashes a demon upon the world. So it's always like 0 to 60, and it's like gets solved in 12 seconds.
That's funny. But Mad popped in and said there are a few Ranger Stranger one shots. I have the first one that came out a couple years ago. Okay, there you go. Look at Mad coming in clutch from the comment section.
Yeah.
Too. What was that? One more time.
Education too.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, hey, that was all that I got this week. And how do you feel about diving into Paper Girls?
Sure.
It's in the title, so I don't know why I tried to tease it earlier, but
I have my reflective one here.
Look at these beautiful books.
And I have one of the hardcover, which is probably both of yours.
Right. So let's just start this off by saying that the reason that we read this, well, the reason that I read this is that this weekend, this Sunday, I just like went ham reading comics. I read 7 like single issues and then this trade paperback plus a little bit more. Yeah, I just went crazy. I just woke up and I was just like, feed me comics. But before that, I think the last one I read was, and I haven't talked about this on this podcast, but Outer Space Western, I think it's called, by Marco something from Scout. I'll look it up later. I posted about it. It's fantastic. It's like, oh my God, such a good comic. But we're not here to talk about that. What we're here to talk about is the fact that you gave me these.
Yes.
And
trades 1 and 2 because I bought those originally. And then this nice little compendium came out. I guess that's what it's called. Yeah. Hard covers put sideways there. And this is
beautiful.
Plus, I think a couple issues. I think it's like 1 through 14. I'm not sure. But yeah, I had them for years. And then I was like, I messaged you and said, you want some old trades? Because why? I don't need those if I have this. So I'm giving them someone that will enjoy them. And I thought you would enjoy the story.
Dude, what I will say, I did very much so enjoy the story. You reread it, and we got to a little bit about the same spot. I'm pretty sure I just read the first issue of the second volume, so I'm probably like on like issue 6 or 7, whatever that is. But let's hear, what is it? It doesn't say. Good. Anyways, I loved it, man. This was like we talk a lot about here, like when we finish arcs, and we're like, this would have. Like I would have really enjoyed this in a trade paperback, just because the story isn't very long. It's like it takes place like at least the first volume takes place pretty much just in one night, one morning rather, one very early morning.
40 or 3, something like that in the morning because they're Paper Girls and they're
right. And it's set. The first volume is set in 1988 or like 1988. 88. Oh wow, look at that. That I feel like I just pulled that out of my butt. So good on me.
Like you were saying, like I sat down today because I went into the podcast. I was like, let's talk about Paper Girls. I'll reread the first trade, but actually I ended up reading a little bit more. I read 8 issues of it today, all in one sitting, and it is so good. Brian K. Vaughan, Cliff Chang, the artist. So the artist, really, I don't know. Does your trade the dinosaurs coming to?
Get
them?
Yeah.
So that'll be issue 5 at the end of that. So you got to issue 6 will be the next one.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, and then I said I read the first one. So, but the art, I have that pretty much that same page here. Yeah. But I think like earlier when we were talking about like how just like easy it is to flow through things, I was thinking about the art in this and just how much that just gives, because I don't know if it's the background, the fact that like it's like very like there's a very like solid background, and so it makes it very easy to skim the whole page. You're not like, you don't really jump from like colors to colors.
Yeah, like I'll show you right here. Like here's a panel of the one guy in the backyard. So like,
right,
it's not real busy. Right,
and it just it flowed super well, and just like it, all of it's beautiful. It just gives so much like the way that it's laid out really benefits the storytelling. Not that the story itself is very good and well written, but why don't you tell the folks at home what the story is?
So the story, and I back in the day, I got this as it came out. It is what I collected because I was, and then there was a slight delay. I think it got to issue 30, 32. Anyway, it's about Paper Girls.
Oh, wow.
4 girls. Let me see if I can remember their names. Mackenzie, KJ, Aaron, and Tiffany. And
Sure.
new girl, yeah, the new girl, Aaron, is their first day delivering papers on the paper route. And it's a big thing in the 80s because before Mackenzie, all the paper delivery people were boys. So she's the girl. So it's like, hey, there's 4 girls delivering papers. And of course, it is 1988. So, and now like people are like, what's a newspaper delivery?
Right? Yeah. Who did? And they delivered it? Crazy.
Yeah. In the morning. So they get up real early in the morning. The new girl joins them, and they go off to start their route. And all of a sudden, what happens first? They hear a noise, and then house that they're like it's kind of abandoned, and they find this weird.
So they run into some like ninja kind of looking guys on the street, and that's why they go looking because they start following them.
Yeah, it's a day after Halloween. They call it Hell Night. So all the Halloween stuff's up. So it makes sense why there's still some kids dressed up.
See, I missed that when I was reading it, and so it was weird for me when like they were just like, oh, there's this kid with a lion's head on him. Like, wait, is this?
And then a kid dressed like Freddy Krueger. He must be wacky.
Yeah, I'm just like, what's this? Yeah. So then I put together. I was like, oh, okay, I must have missed that.
Yeah. So and then one of the ninjas steals one of the girls' CB radios because they don't have walkie-talkie. She's like, give me your walkie-talkie. She's like, it's a CB radio and it has 14 channels and like, yeah, and she's like, $50 for this all year. So they go back to get that and they go in the basement. They find this UFO thing and the thing that looks like it's an Apple iPod with the Apple on it, and then stuff happens from there on out once the machine pulses, and a lot of time travel involved in this, especially later on. I mean, you'll get there, and then when we get to like issue 20 and stuff like that, all kinds of time travel and like Dr. Timey, what is it? Wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
I can't believe this comic went that long. That's super impressive.
Yeah, 30 issue for an Image book that was basically just like, hey, I have this idea for a comic, and
Paper Girls had time travel.
Yeah. In the 80s, and this is weird because this came out right around the same thing Stranger Things did. And I didn't watch it.
Okay.
That's 80s, and I think there's some time travel involved in that. And
I didn't know that.
Stuff, yeah. I don't know. So someone's like, I didn't watch Stranger Things, but from what I've heard,
sure. I haven't either.
So, but Paper Girls is very, very entertaining, and it also has like that at the end of like each issue. It's like, wait a minute, what? Who is that? Where are they going? So it's kind of like cliffhangers to lead you to the next issue. And there's always like wacky, like, wait a minute, and it keeps you guessing. Like, I thought that person was with those, but it is very, very creative. But it is a little confusing with the time travel, especially later on.
Yeah, I would imagine because I don't want to spoil anything, but there is like some weird character overlaps, and you're like, I would imagine that like time travel is like convoluted in and of itself if you don't like kind of lay down some like definitive rules and like this is kind of how this works, you know. And also like I'm not saying this about this story, I'm just saying it in general. I think time travel is kind of like a tired trope, you know.
Yeah,
a little bit.
It's almost like when you're lazy and you want to like, we have time travel, so now we can do anything, you know.
Right. So, yeah, I think I don't know, I feel like we're seeing a lot more like stories like set just in other times, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's common or maybe just like it's more popular in indie comics, but yeah, it just seems like something that is pretty. I mean, I'm thinking of Cover the Dead with Lime, which is one of the best examples of that. Do you know that comic?
No.
I believe it's by Jonathan Chance. We had him on the podcast, and we also had another Jonathan on, Jonathan Hendricks. So I always get the two back to back. But I'm pretty sure this is Cover the Dead. Yeah, that's Jonathan Chance. It's about like essentially it's during the plague, like the Black Plague, the bubonic plague. I don't know. And instead of like just like getting sick and dying, people turn into zombies. So it's cool to see like something like that's normally set in modern times set like elsewhere, you know.
Yeah, you don't really see a zombie epic in like 1492 or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So anyways, back to Paper Girls. I don't really have anything I'm dying to say about it other than like it's just a good Sunday read, and that's when I read it, you know. Like
it's a good if you can get the trade like that or the covers. And I think there's even one big honking omnibus. It flows really nice issue to issue, but like back in the day when they're coming out month to month, you're kind of like, wait a minute, you forget, especially when it gets a little convoluted with the characters, maybe talking to their future selves and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, but if you have it all collected, it's a nice, easy read. It's not, like we were saying, not tons of exposition. And you don't need to know anything. You can go into it, issue 1, oh, it's paper girls, and they're normal, and all of a sudden,
wacky stuff happens.
So it's like supernatural time travel. That's all you really need to know. But Brian K. Vaughan, great writer, because he wrote Why the Last Man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he did right before this, I forget. But Why the Last Man went on for like 8 or 10 years or something like that.
Well, good on him for doing series that keep on rolling.
Yeah, like he's the guy that he doesn't. I know he has the shortest one that I have is like called United We Stand, about like it's like the government, the Canadian government fighting the U.S. government in like this world, and like the United.
Interesting.
The Canadian.
Well, he also did a Saga, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't even know if I put that together, because as you were talking about it and you said Brian K. Vaughan, I was like, I don't think I looked at all who the team was, and then you kept saying Brian K. Vaughan. I'm like, I know that from somewhere. And then we were thinking about like ongoing series. I'm like, oh, Saga was really like a really good ongoing series.
Probably his most popular. We just didn't think of it at all.
Yeah.
2 trades of that, and that is very good.
That is very good.
Finish that, but yeah, then it's just that Saga and Paper Girls. His writing style is better when you read them like all collected. And so, and again, not much exposition, not much words where you're like, oh, I'll never get to this page. And the art is very good. And both in Saga, that's Fiona Staples, and then who was on Wonder Woman 2 right around the same time as this. So it's like,
oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see like he's doing Wonder Woman and now he's doing Paper Girls. So
that's really cool. Good on him. Well, hey, friend, you told me backstage that you got into the Hellfire Gala, the X-Men's Hellfire Gala.
Yeah, so I've been reading the X-Men books off and on, and they are, like you said many times in this, and I've said my one, very confusing. Here's the Hellfire Gala. It is a big, it's like a double-sized issue. It is $8.99, but it is pretty thick. So I don't know, the page count's probably at least 40. Normal comic, but the Fall of X is coming. The whole X-Men. I'll simplify it real quick. From what I know, all the X-Men live on a mutant island called Krakoa that is a mutant itself. The good guys and the bad guys live there, and they've got a way to back up people. So if you die, they just resurrect you, and which is I didn't like, because it's like, if there's no death, then there's no consequences. So what does it matter? But anyway, all that on Krakoa, but now there's starting to be cracks, and like some mutants live on Mars, and Storm is like the leader of the mutants on Mars. That's cool. Starting like Mr. Sinister had his fingers and everything, and he's trying to break it all down. So the Hellfire Gala, this issue, they have one, I think, every year since they took over with House X and Powers of X. This is of the downfall of it. And I think this has been out for like a month, so I'm going to spoil a little bit if you don't want to know
go ahead.
What happens, fast forward. But they have portals, right, where the mutants can go through, but nobody else. And right where on Earth, through a portal, they get to Krakoa. So Mr. Sinister does something where all the portals, when all the mutants go through, because he says, get all the mutants off Krakoa to Charles Xavier. So he uses my powers to go through. And guess what happens when they go through portals? They all die. So,
oh, no. That's like the second time all the X-Men have died.
Yeah, with Scarlet Witch, no more mutants.
Right.
They all go Charles Xavier is like, I can't sense them anymore. I'm like, they just killed off 75% of the mutants.
I mean, that's not funny, because I think about it, like, think about them as a species, like what they are. You know, they talk all the time about like the X gene, like, and all this stuff, and like just the fact that they've like tried to like populate the Earth twice, and it's just been like, nah.
Here's our island nation that is fully populated, and now we have 25% of that spread out, and we never get to the island.
So do they really say 25%?
Well, no, they don't, but like it's a lot of
yeah.
All the people who aren't the main X-Men kind of get off. Like, they don't say they die, but they go in portal, and Charles Xavier can't sense them, so they're dead.
Oh, man. Or at least somewhere not good. Yeah,
because they had where the island nation of Krakoa became its own nation because they were making pills that would heal humans, right? Sinister laced all the pills, and he said, if you don't listen to me, I'll kill all the humans that were taking
Jesus.
So that's the short of it. I know I'm probably leaving stuff out. I haven't been reading hardcore for the past 4 years, but I like that they're finally getting rid of Krakoa, because I don't like Krakoa. I don't like the resurrection protocols. I don't like the good guys and the bad guys living together. So I'm finally happy that it's finally starting to break down. The cracks are showing. Mr. Sinister is an evil guy.
Right.
And,
I'm not opposed to Krakoa, but I do like just like traditional like school upstate New York, you know?
Yes, me too.
There is something that seems a little like extravagant when they're like, we have an island nation and it's a person, you know, like it's a man.
Yeah, and we live on Mars too. So
Yeah.
Like, too much, let's scale it back down. So I'm glad this is scaling back down. And like so many mutants now that like we'll get rid of a few of them.
I hope that X-Men has this trend that every time that it tries to re-simplify itself, it gets more complicated, because that's what happened last time. So I'm really hoping that like somehow, I can't think of anything more complicated than the last thing they did, but
I know.
I believe in you. You can do it. Make the X-Men the most complicated thing in narrative history.
If you want complicated, just look up the history of Psylocke, where they took a character that had a very convoluted backstory and made it even more convoluted into two separate characters.
Man. Well, like, I don't know. I remember when I first started getting into like comics and like superheroes and stuff, I would just pull up like Wolverine's Wikipedia page and just read that. And it's the like craziest thing in the world, because they're like, or like, I don't, there used to be this website, it probably still exists, called Comic Vine, that I liked a lot. And they have like histories of characters on there with like references to comics and stuff. And they try to make it like a narrative, but it's just like, you can't explain like these dudes' lives, man. Like, don't try.
Especially just on years and years, and writers keep adding stories and adding, and you're like, what is going on? This man has done everything ever.
I know. Well, that's how I kind of feel about Spider-Man. It's just like, what haven't you done? And I'm like, in the course that you would be slinging punches like every other minute if you were Spider-Man in real life, because like that's just, he's like on the Avengers, he's on the new Avengers, he's in the Fantastic Four. Like,
I had a Spider-Man X-Men book. They said was a teacher at the X school.
I remember reading a little bit of that. Just like,
it was funny.
Well, there was I think it was Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, where he kills Wolverine. He's like, your superpower isn't healing, it's popularity, or something like that.
Which is funny, Deadpool, because that would probably be his superpower as well.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. 100% at this point. But yeah. Do you mind if I get into one that I got into?
Go ahead.
So I kind of jumped off this series a little bit, just because I wasn't really going anywhere. We talked about it on the podcast, and I was a couple issues in, and I was just like, nothing has really happened. It's all just been introducing characters. And the comic that I'm talking about is the Ambassadors. But I read Big Game by Mark Miller. This is by Mark Miller, by the way. And Big Game is like a crossover event that he's doing with like bringing Nemesis, Kick-Ass, Nightclub. What was that?
All his properties into one.
Yep. And so like it's like a crossover. So I think Mark Miller, I feel like definitely had like just this like desire to be like, I just want to be able to put the crossover event of a summer on a comic, because that's what it says like across the back. And I'm like, he's just been waiting for that for 20 years, you know?
Stuff finally meets, and people are like, oh.
But I read that, and like that super intrigued me, because it combined like a lot of it. Kick-Ass was brought back, and I love Kick-Ass, so like it was really cool to like see what he was up to. And like, yeah, so it tied in with the Ambassadors. And so I'm like, well, I should go back and read that and like just see where it ended. And the last two issues that I read, issue number 5 and 6, like it started to ramp up and like actually become like a fun narrative. Not just like introducing people, which was the problem for like the first 4 issues rather, where it was just like introducing people. Because the premise is that there's this lady who invented a way to like download superpowers into people, and she was going to make a super team with an ambassador from every nation. Yeah, so the team's not fully built yet. They're still trying to like put it all together. They don't have an American yet, and that's kind of where this ends, of just being like the last line is like, should we get a cliche American? And so if you jump over to Big Game, Dave Lebowski, or no, Dave Lewinsky, I forget what is the original Kick-Ass guy.
Yeah.
He's writing the ambassadors. He's trying to become the American ambassador. So I would hope that that's where it goes. It'd be really cool to actually see Kick-Ass with like real superpowers.
Yeah.
I will say, just like as a small caveat, just a small personal one, is that like there's some weird political undertones to this, and like even with the ambassadors and with Big Game, and I'm like, I don't know where you're going with this. I don't like some of the things that you're implying. Sketchy, but like the story's really good, so I'm here for the story.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like he said something about like one of a superhero stopping the COVID plan, and like, oh yeah. So I'm just like, okay, we don't need to do that, Mark Miller. Make up a different thing. But
that creators will like sneak. I'm just gonna sneak in my personal beliefs here and see if
and I get it, but like I don't know. I just feel like I need to say that because I don't want people to read it and then be like, oh, Monk loves this because he's, whatever. But that's just me kind of covering my own tracks, which I always think of like those old cartoons with like, as a creature's walking in the forest, he's using like twigs to cover his tracks. That's me right now. But yeah, it's like all that aside, like it was just a fun story. And so if you can just take it as that, like it's Mark Miller. So he delivers,
Yeah, I know he did like what was it?
Irredeemable.
Irredeemable, and there was an Incorruptible, I think.
Yeah. So those are like, do you know the premises behind those?
Kind of like a Superman gone bad, kind of.
Yeah, and then it's like a Superman gone bad, and the other one is a like Lex Luthor gone good kind of thing, I think. And they happen like simultaneously, and apparently he's redoing it, which I would imagine is probably going to play into, into the Big Game.
That's pretty cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, But anyways, what else did you get into?
Yeah, a couple of that I read. So sticking with the X-Men here, I got this book.
Do it.
The art in this book is by Todd Knock. I believe that's how to pronounce it. It's like N-A-U-C-K. The art is fantastic. He did the Gwen Stacy book that only did like 3 issues, but the art is just, I don't know, to get real close here. It is just really, really nice. Like
it's very 90s.
Yeah.
Or very maybe in like early 2000s.
Yeah. But his art is just so, and the colors are so like they pop and everything. So that's why I like Magneto. But like this is a book that it doesn't have anything to do with the current X-Men. It's its own like standalone Elseworlds book. But
that's cool.
Very heavy in X-Men lore. Like there's some stuff like wait a minute, where are those characters? When does this take place?
Yeah.
And if you don't know your Magneto history at all, you might be really lost. And there's like the villain that comes, you're like, wait, what? So like it's cool. The art's very good, but and this one was a little word heavy, but it was a good read. I'll probably stick on at least with issue 2. It's only gonna be 4 issues. So
okay. Yeah, it's not bad.
Art is kind of helping me because the art is just so good. But
that's awesome.
Very like, if you don't know your history on Magneto, you might be like, I have no idea what's going on here.
Who at Marvel is making this decision to make X-Men so impenetrable?
I don't know. Especially like you always like nowhere in this book does it say like an Elseworld or a story lost in time. It's just like, here's a Magneto book who currently dead in the main X-Men book. So then you get, I mean, what? And then that's just a sidebar. The current issue of Scarlet Witch that I read. Guess who goes up in this?
Magneto.
And you're reading it. It's not Magneto. It's a clone of Magneto. Let's not complicate things. And Scarlet Witch is a very good one story issues, but so Magneto, like, I don't know. I like the X-Men, but like we really do need a simplification of everything in the Marvel universe.
I know. I'm saying make it more complicated. Double down. Have a degree. Make it that you only can read X-Men if you go to college. I will say that Magneto cover, I really do love that. And for the promo, if I had more time, I was going to Photoshop a picture of you onto the cover of that. Because I'm like, I'm sure there has to be a picture of him like diving or something where his arms are out.
There has to be. I'm sure I have one to go in my profile pictures because
Right.
like he's that would be awesome.
Well, I'll see what I can do for you, bud.
Okay.
But yeah, so I got into, let's see. Oh, I want to shout out this. I have 2 series that I read that wrapped up, not including The Ambassadors, which also wrapped up. Just kind of going to shout out these ones. Nightclub. They also got a name drop in the Big Game comic. I don't think any of them really appeared, but I really enjoyed this story. So this was like a double wide issue. This was the first one in the series that actually cost $3.99. The rest of them were all $1.99. So yeah, but it was just, you know, I'm kind of like vampire spent, but this wasn't focused so much on being like a vampire. It was just kind of cool story about kids with superpowers, which I think Mark Miller does really well. Again, because Kick-Ass is like one of my favorites. But yeah, it's a great series. So if you haven't picked it up, and like it's super cheap, but I would just wait for the trade paperback, honestly.
God.
Yeah, because it's just going to probably be just as cheap. And then the other thing that I read that wrapped up was The Seasons Have Teeth. And so this was number 4. This was just a fun story about this guy here on the cover. Going around, all these seasons have been like become monsters that just kind of walk around the land. And right, yeah, it's a really cool premise. And he was like he wanted to be a war photographer. He was a war photographer. He was a war photographer. Then his wife got sick and died of cancer, and like while she was dying, he just took like a lot of pictures of her, and he said it was for like artistic expressions, but he realized he was like just trying to separate himself from it because he made it like an art project or like a piece rather than like sitting with his dying wife, you know. So the story is just pretty much about him confronting all of that while also tracing down giant monsters. So yeah, so it is really cool. Like again, it's another one I would wait for the trade just because it's 4 issues and like it would just be, I think, a lot more impactful of a story if you shotgunned it like that.
Yeah.
So but yeah, how about you, buddy? Anything else you want to shout out?
Yeah, one of my Ninja Turtles are hot right now, which the new movie's out. Which I seen the new movie. Sidebar.
Oh, did you? Oh, wow.
I know a lot of people get mad when they change the backstory of the Turtles or they change characters around. I don't know. The art style is really cool. Imagine claymation with chalk drawn over it. It's very Spider-Verse, but like a little. The art style for the movie is really cool. It's really unique. But I enjoy it. But big Turtles fan. So Last Ronin, The Lost Years. This is the book that explains what Michelangelo did before the events in the main Last Ronin book, and like where he was at, where he's in all these different countries and stuff. And then they do a thing at the end of the book where they kind of show what the new little baby turtles are doing. That girl Casey, not to get real deep into it. There's a girl Casey, daughter of Casey and April. She's raising new baby turtles and training to be the next generation Ninja Turtles in the future because they're all dead. So happens with them at the end of this. So, and it does say the last Ronin will return. So more in the last Ronin verse of Conan, but it was pretty good. A little bit in the middle, it was kind of like, can we just get Michelangelo to get done what he's doing? You know?
Yeah.
It does give a lot of backstory. So if you enjoyed the last Ronin, The Lost Years, gives backstory about what Michelangelo did to lead up to the last Ronin, and gives information on the new turtles who their names I just cannot remember. The new baby turtles.
Well, that's fair.
One different language. One's Yi, one's like Oja, and I can't remember there two. 2 are girls. And I don't know which ones are girls, which ones are boys. But
hopefully it becomes so popular that we remember them just like all the other ones. But quickly, Mad said, "I love the new TMNT movie. I'm thinking about going and seeing it. I'm going and seeing Oppenheimer and the Last Voyage of the Demeter, whatever it is." Yeah. The Dracula's on a boat movie. I'm very excited for that. I'm going to see those double features with some friends this weekend. So
pretty nice.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Comic booky Blue Beetle, I believe, comes out this weekend as well. Which does not look.
No, it doesn't look bad. I don't know anything about that character. So it's gonna be,
my knowledge is very low.
Yeah. I would imagine we're not alone in that. Well, that's not true. He's like a pretty popular character.
Yeah, and this is like the legacy version. So like there was the Ted Core Blue Beetle. This is the Jamie Reyes version.
Right.
So for like a newer age. It looks good. I don't know much about Blue Beetle. It does suck that it's in a weird like lame duck position for DC movies because like they're all restarting with Superman. So
Right. Technically, this is the first in the new DCU, whatever it's called.
Yeah, you want to call it. And I think that how they're taking this is this does well, it counts. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah, because I mean it is Blue Beetle, so like I'm sure there's nothing in here that's super like Wonder Woman's not going to fly through and say something, you know. Yeah. But anyways, something that I would love to see more good stuff of is Star Wars. Not that Star Wars isn't putting out good stuff, but boy, howdy do I love Star Wars. Last week when I was at the comic shop, I saw this sitting on the shelf. Matt and I talk a lot about how like a good cover should like show you what's going on in the issue. It should like suck you in. And like also I'm a big like fan of like these old styles where it's like 6-on-1, you know, like
I like that. Like so and so's in this issue. What's gonna happen?
You know, Boba Fett or like Boss shows up. Oh no, you know? And like, yeah, so this is the hyperspace stories. Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're mostly just one-offs. I'm sure there might be like a continuation on some things, but they seem to be like a little bit of an anthology series. At least this one was. You know, this one seemed like a pretty start to finish issue. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would love to see more. I'm an idiot. I was about to say I would love to see more Star Wars, and then I'm just like, there's so much Star Wars. But I guess
about a book that came out today. I almost picked it up.
Which one?
Max Rebo, the little blue guy.
Oh, that's funny. Man, yeah. See, there's maybe too much Star Wars. Maybe I should have taken it back.
There's one Star Wars book I want that I still haven't done yet. I want a Rey ongoing, like a book about Rey, what she does after movies, and like before the movies, not maybe a flashbacks, but like a Rey after the last 3 movies. Like not yet.
I would imagine that we're gonna. Hold on. Oh, Matt said I got that Star Wars Hyperspace Story 2. It's on the Star Wars pile. Yes, they're anthological, but still a Star Wars story in canon. Okay, there you go. Yeah. So I mean, this story is just about Boba Fett helping a Wookiee, and you know, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And Boba Fett. I don't know what. It's Boba Fett like in his kind of like badass days before like the Disney Plus series, but
yeah, I don't like cool dad kind of.
Yeah. But yeah, I got into that, and then just the last 2 that I want to shout out is Kingdom Miracle #2 came out, and so I gotta say this comic, it feels very much like somebody just like it's just so wholesome. It's like one of the most wholesome comics I read. And it's like, I feel like a lot of times when I read comics, they try to be edgy and they're like, I want to say curse words or like make these kids do drugs. Yeah, and I'm like, this comic is just like, it's just about an angel who's trying to solve a mystery. And like, he talks like he's like very like 1920s, just like, gee, Willikers, like, and stuff like that. And I just really appreciate it because it doesn't feel forced or phony. It's just like someone was like, I have a lighthearted idea and I want to do a lighthearted idea, you know?
Especially when everybody else is like gritty and dark. So why not?
Yeah. Right. So yeah. And then just the last really quick one I want to shout out is Here Lies Blaze, You Dead Homie.
That one looks really. That's a one shot, right?
Yeah, it's from Source Point Press. I think from what I've gathered that Blaze, You Dead Homie, he's a person. He's a rapper or something like that. And they did this comic for him. So I thought he was a comic writer and this was like his like he did something, but I think I think this is just like a fun one-off story that they did about this guy, and I enjoyed it. Source Point Press always does really good one-shots.
Them and Scout, that and then like unknown books like that. 7 Years of Darkness.
Well, that's what is that? CEB, something like that. I think it is.
And it's not. I was thinking it was Scout, but
I think it's CEB or something or CEX. I can't remember.
It's a weird, but it's a good comic.
It is a good comic. Well, hey, pal, we're getting close to the end here. Anything you want to? Any last comics you want to shout out?
I have been like diving into manga a lot, which is just Japanese.
Okay.
One
Right. Yeah.
that is a slice of life that is just wacky and silly as about teens being awkward in high school. It's called Comey Can't Communicate. And it's
Okay.
Comey who she can't speak because she has such social anxiety that she just like so she writes everything down in a notebook and shows the notebook to people.
Oh, geez, that's fun.
The one guy can like interpret her kind of. So
Right.
I'm currently reading that. It's really, but it's like manga. Like so, one manga is roughly like 3, 4, 5 issues of comic. So
Okay.
there is 26 volumes of this.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I didn't want to get into it. I was like, oh my god, 26 volumes. So
I mean, oh my god.
So, but it's a lot of fun. There is an anime on Netflix. It's very very funny life. It's kind of like Seinfeldy, where it's like the whole episode will be like them going out to eat ramen, so like that. That's it.
That's fun.
There's like crazy bad guys are just goofy, and
Yeah.
teens in high school being awkward.
That's fun. That sounds like a very manga thing to be done. But well, hey, buddy, I appreciate you coming on and doing this. It's always fun, good chatting time with you. You got anything going on? Anything you want to shout out or plug? Any matches coming up or anything?
This one's pretty cool. I'll do the unique ones. I'm wrestling at the Hamburger Festival in Hamburg.
Right.
They're going to have wrestling matches, and they are totally free. That's awesome. November 5th. I believe that's a Saturday. They're having matches spread throughout the day. I believe the Hamburger Festival runs from like 11 to 4, something like that. Tons of hamburgers, even vegan ones. But there's wrestling there. I'm wrestling for the title belt for AXW. So,
oh man,
the Hamburger Festival in Hamburg, Pennsylvania. Get it?
Yeah. That's a lot of fun. Get there early because it gets crowded.
Yeah. Yep. The whole downtown Hamburg, Pennsylvania, for those, not Germany. I'm shipping out to Germany. No, the whole main street is shut down. It's just it's like a big block party.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I've gone to a couple of them. So
yeah, I'm doing that. I'm wrestling Slatington PPW. I'm a CCW in Lebanon and Lewistown. That's the 17th and 18th and 19th this month. I get my dates mixed up. But and then in September at Colossal Con East, this is an anime convention at the Kalahari Resort in the Poconos. I will be wrestling at that. They have a wrestling show on the Saturday of the anime convention. So that's pretty cool. People dress like anime characters and different characters. Last time they had a battle royal, and it was Ronald McDonald and Wendy and the Colonel from KFC battle royal. So that's
my goodness.
And if you're going, it's obviously it's a free event if you're at the Kalahari Con. So there, and just follow my Facebook. It's I'm Andy Hitter on there. Same for Instagram and Twitter, or I guess X now. My flyers and stuff. So if you want to get a hold of me or see where I'm at.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, buddy. For those of you watching, if this is your first time coming through here, we appreciate that. Make sure that you like and subscribe wherever you can like and subscribe at. Wherever those buttons at, give us a like. We just appreciate any and all engagement. Follow us on the socials. We have all the socials at pullboxpals except Threads. We're not on Threads yet.
Yeah, everyone's like, Twitter's dying. Go to Threads, Mastodon, Blue Sky. I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't want X to succeed because of personal reasons again, but we don't need to get into that. What we do need to get into is you guys having a good time out there, making sure that you subscribe and making sure that you come by every time that we go live. I appreciate everybody who does it. Y'all are the best. And you know what, Andy, would you like to say the outro, my friend?
You want me to land this bird? Because we didn't.
I didn't say anything about a horse either. Let's bring this horse into town and let a bird land on it.
Let's land the horse
on a bird, and that sounds like a mess.
So, I did listen earlier today to your mega episode that was all about 8-bill genies with the guy. That was a very good episode. So check that one out. And
thanks, buddy.
I haven't read comics like these in years.